This episode of Backstage with Richard Ridge is presented by the Living Room at W New York Times Square, a playful nod to Times Square of the past and a perfect escape from the hustle and bustle of the city. Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. My guests are two of Broadway's most sought-after stars who are currently electrifying audiences in Stephen Karam's critically acclaimed play, The Humans, and they have both been nominated for Tony Awards for their performances. Please welcome Jayne Houdyshell and Birney.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, I got that out. See that?
Very good.
Welcome. How are you surviving during award season?
Amazingly well. You know, I wasn't quite prepared for how many events there were to attend, even though I've been through it a couple times.
Sure.
It seems like it's growing, the awards season.
Every year gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
But everybody's so nice.
Yeah.
Everywhere we go to all of these things, people are saying the nicest things and being so welcoming and friendly. It's actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, so it's very collegial too. It kind of feels like a big class reunion.
Sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
You two are phenomenal in The Humans.
Thank you.
Thanks.
What is it like living in this world inhabited and created by Stephen Karam?
Well, at this point, it feels like home, really. I mean, it's about a family and it takes place around a holiday, but we've been doing it now long enough that it's just really comfortable and beautiful to do.
Yeah.
It's a very rich experience in terms of that, in terms of walking into that world. Whatever problems the family is having, it's actually fun as actors to live in that world and go through their problems and not mine.
Well, you two have been connected with this from the very beginning, haven't you?
Yes, yeah.
We both did readings of the play years ago, but not together, two separate ones.
Oh, interesting.
But we actually met, we've known each other, but we met as the Blakes the first day of rehearsal last September.
So what is it like working together and with this remarkable cast?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Everybody's so good and funny and really good at their jobs that you don't have to worry. Sometimes when you're in a play, you have to worry about your colleagues.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about these people. They're so good.
Yeah, it's very easy to respect one another on stage and off. And we don't get tired of doing the play. We love getting together every day to do it.
It's remarkable.
Yeah. You have both worked with director Joe Mantello before. Mm-hmm. What's it like when you revisit with a director? Is there like a shorthand?
I feel very comfortable working with Joe, certainly, but I've done a number of projects with him, and he doesn't approach each thing in exactly the same way. He really answers to the needs of a particular play or musical, and so this time around it was, as always, a really inspiring experience because he's brilliant and what he brings to actors is just phenomenal. But he had a real kind of, I think the same way we all did, a kind of relaxation about the material because the writing was just so fine.
Yeah.
And there was a real family, easy feeling working with him on this
Jayne
go-round.
should mention that her very first time working with Joe Mantello was Non-Equity Summer Stock in the 70s, where she did Hello Dolly, and he was a dancing waiter.
Was he really?
Yes, and I played Dolly, and he was in the Harmonia Gardens with me.
Did you have any idea?
He was 18 years old. He was little Joey Mantello. Well, I'll tell you, I did have a big idea about him because after we did Hello Dolly, later in that season we did a production of Equus, and he played the boy.
Yeah.
And he'd had virtually no experience at that point and no technique to speak of, and he was brilliant. And I remember watching him every night and think, boy, this guy's really gonna go places.
Yeah.
And he did.
I love that. Oh, totally, yeah.
He did very nicely for himself.
Well, let's do a speed round because the two of you have these incredible careers on both stage, screen, and television. So let's take some of the life-changing highlights, because you've each had a lot of those in your career. I want to start with you, Jayne. We first fell in love with you in New York, I think, in Lisa Krone's Well.
Yes.
We all sat up, and I was like, who is this woman?
Well, it was the first play that I was in New York that had real visibility.
Yeah.
And up until that point, I had worked almost exclusively in regional theater, even though I'd lived in New York for 27 years or so. But I had hooked hooked up with Lisa Crone and Lee Silverman working on this play, and we worked on it for 4.5 years. So we had a really successful off-Broadway production, and then we went to San Francisco with it and had a successful production there, and then we brought it to Broadway, and it received more attention there. So it was a real highly visible moment in time for me career-wise.
That changed a lot for you. It was a life changer for you, wasn't it?
In terms of my having a relationship with the professional community in New York, certainly.
Because you worked a lot on the road. You were always packing your bags, always going somewhere else out of New York.
For 27 years.
27 years.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It was amazing. And it was great because I got to do a lot of big major roles in American classics and British classics and ancient classics as well as modern. And so I built up a set of skills that were about being an actor with very broad range.
Yeah.
And that set me up well for that shifting in career that happened for me when I started working off Broadway and doing new work. Yeah.
And Reed, for you, Blasted. That was a life changer. Where were you in your career at that time, and what that show meant to you?
I was in bad shape. I was in really bad shape. Nothing was really, I couldn't get any traction. And it had been 35 years for me. I had had a lot of early success, Gemini and Arthur Penn's film Four Friends, and then it all went away. And Blasted, I really only did because it scared me so much. I didn't know that people were waiting 14 years to see that play. And it was at Soho Rep with 77 seats. I thought, well, nobody's going to see it, but it's a really good part, and I'm terrified of it. I should do this. And then it turned into that phenomenon. And empowered me in a way as an actor that I didn't know I could be. I was doing things I didn't know I was capable of. And that was incredibly empowering and liberating.
Wicked, for you, you had started in musicals, and then you took musicals off your resume when you came back to New York, right?
I did.
Wow.
Yeah, because I didn't feel competitive in the musical theater market here. There are so many phenomenal talents. And, I was just an actor who moved well and had a big, strong, loud voice. And so I just didn't feel marketable that way, and I was fine doing straight plays. It really was fine. But after I did well, I got a call. My agents got a call from little Joey Mantello
from the Harmonica Gardens,
who was the only person in New York who had any idea that I'd ever done musicals, and wondering if I wanted to go into Wicked. And so I said yes. And I did that on Broadway for 18 months.
You loved playing Madame Marble, didn't you?
Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And the learning curve for me was very steep in terms of being in a great, big, huge blockbuster hit like that. And so it was a great experience for me, too. It set me up nicely for hopefully more musicals to come.
Read for you, Circle, Mirror, Transformation.
Well, that was the second play I did after Blasted, and I feel like it was sort of a 1-2 punch, because it was very different from Blasted, but Sam Gold and Annie Baker's production was so thrilling, and I think it showed people who had never seen me before, who had maybe only seen me in Blasted, that I had this other thing, and it exposed me to a whole world of young playwrights and directors who became interested in working with me. So that really was the nail in the coffin, for lack of a better term.
Isn't it wonderful when certain projects, you have no idea what they're going to be, but when you get connected to them, they just take you on a whole other path?
That's right.
Well, The Humans is very much that. Absolutely. It was just going to be another off-Broadway play for all of us, and then it turned into this thing.
When were you told that you were going to Broadway? I mean, just the whole way of this. Do you remember the night you were told?
Yes. It was opening night of off-Broadway.
It was like a movie.
Yeah.
They called us after the show into the ladies' dressing room, and we thought Joe was going to say, "It's been a hell of a ride, have a good time." And he said, "We have a Waiting for Guffman moment. The show is moving to Broadway."
Doesn't happen like that. It happens like that way in the movies, right?
Movies,
like opening night.
That's exactly what I said at the moment, because the younger people in the company were like, "Oh, that's wonderful," and I said, "You don't understand. This doesn't ever happen like this. it was phenomenal. Reed and I were kind of speechless
Yeah.
about it, really.
Yeah.
Because you've been down this road before with shows you thought might have moved and never did.
Yeah, sure.
And then, of course, it moved into the Helen Hayes, which was the theater I did my
Gemini.
first Broadway play in 1977.
I remember
So-
seeing that Ken Duncan picture of you
Yeah.
with no shirt on.
I have it on my phone if you'd like it.
We have it. Yeah, we have it. I
You
saw that
have it.
picture the other day. It's like all the Ken Duncans of you, Jessica James,
Yep.
and DeSalvo, Danny Aiello. That was
Yeah.
a big show for us to see first coming to New York.
Yes, yes,
You know,
yes.
another show for you, The Receptionist.
Oh yeah.
All by
I
yourself.
loved doing that play.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't all by
Yeah,
myself.
yeah.
There were 3 other actors in it, but
Yeah.
I did have a lot of time on the
Yeah.
phone by myself.
Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, that was very exciting to do, and that came out of being invited to the O'Neill one summer to work on this new play,
Yeah.
and I did a reading of it there, and within 6, maybe 9 months, I guess, I was asked to do it at Manhattan Theatre Club.
Yeah.
And again, Joe directed that.
Yeah.
And I loved doing that part, even
Yeah.
though it was kind of death-defying to do. The most scary was the night that the phone cues, the sound cues for the phone ringing were computerized, and the computer went out.
Oh, God.
What did you do?
Well, it was glitchy. Sometimes it would ring and sometimes it wouldn't. So I had to remember the calls that I was supposed to be picking up and saying hello to, and just dial fake numbers and make the calls myself.
Oh,
It
good
was
thinking.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
no, I was on another planet at
Bah.
that point.
No,
yeah.
see, I knew there were other people in that show, but when I kept researching that, I kept saying, that was a one-woman show. All I do is picturing you sitting at that desk for the whole entire
Oh
show.
yeah, well, it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
definitely a featured role.
The starring role for you, Casa Valentina, another career changer and life changer.
Yes.
Scary to take that role on?
It was, initially, it was very scary. We had 2 days of like a makeup boot camp before rehearsal started,
Yeah.
Wow.
where we all gathered and they put wigs and dresses on us, and they put a bra and a slip on me, and I thought I was going to pass out.
Yeah.
It was some deep thing
Yeah.
was touched. It was terrifying. Terrifying. And then the nightmare of wearing high heels.
Yeah.
All you ladies got to stop with the high heels. Yeah, terrible. But so much fun to do. And something I'd never thought about, putting on a dress or a wig. And again, very liberating, because I didn't have any sort of picture of how Reed had to behave.
Yeah.
I was just focused on Charlotte. Really fun. And Joe was brilliant.
You know, going back to Joe, Joe's a very hands-on director because he stays during previews and performances. Because I know he gave you a note one night
Yes, he did.
when you weren't delivering something or
Well,
feeling it the way he thought.
there was my big speech to all the girls had gone very well in the rehearsal room, and we were all feeling great. And then we got in the theater, and in tech, I believe he said, it's got to be more personal. And I thought,
Yeah.
how could it be more personal? It's so personal now. And he said, no, it's got to be more personal. So I went out not even knowing what that was going to look like, and he was absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I busted through some wall that I'd already put up, thinking I was finished.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing.
really fun.
Follies, another musical for you.
Yeah. That came out of the blue too.
Yeah.
I so didn't expect that. My friend Linda Levin was doing that role, Hattie,
Yeah.
at Kennedy Center, and I wasn't able to go to Washington, but I was looking forward to seeing her do it. And then I read somewhere in the paper that she wasn't going to do Follies.
Yeah.
She'd taken another play, and I thought, wow, I wonder what they'll get for that. And literally that day, my agents got a call and called me and said, they want you to do Hattie and Follies. And I said, you're kidding me. And I did go in and sing for the music director because they didn't want to change the key,
Yeah.
and they wanted to make sure that I could do that, and that went fine and everything. And so all of a sudden I was just thrust in the middle of this gorgeous, huge Stephen Sondheim musical for its Broadway production, and it was the dream of a lifetime.
Yeah.
Singing that song, number one, big iconic song, but also being in that dreamy cast with all these incredibly versed musical theater performers, legendary performers. And it was a really happy, joyous time for me. I loved doing that show.
Can you sum up the best part of the experience of working on this play? This is one of those special plays that comes along once in a lifetime.
I will never forget it.
Yeah.
I think for me, apart from working with this fantastic group of people, is I'm playing a kind of part I've never played before. And at this age, you can't say that very much. And to play this man from Scranton, ex-janitor, was scary for me and thrilling. And I am so delighted that people are being so good about it and nice about it.
Jayne, for you?
Yeah, for me, this role in particular is dreamy because she's so multifaceted. There's so many elements to her. Stephen has written a really complete woman. She's not stereotypical in any way. Right. And so it's a rich experience to have the grace to stay with it a long time, to go deeper and deeper into that. And then the added bonus, and kind of the big thing for me is to work with all the people in the company. Particularly, I have to say, well, I won't, because I don't have favorites, but it's very special working with Reed because I had seen him in his previous work, and I always admired him and always thought, I hope I get to work with that man someday. So when it worked out that we were doing this together, I've been very, very happy about that the whole time.
And these Tony nominations are so well deserved because you two are theater animals.
Yes.
You live in the world of 8 shows a week.
Yes.
And I just love the recognition that your show has received for the Ensemble Awards and all the other nominations. These Tony nominations must mean the world to the two of you.
They do. I think we both feel the same way. It's very meaningful. Yeah, it's a lovely acknowledgement.
Yeah, a beautiful affirmation from the community and from the universe that we were right to stick with it.
Yeah. It's encouraging.
Yeah,
Totally.
It's encouraging.
My final question is, what is the best bit of advice that you've been given, both personally and professionally, that you each live by?
For me, it's challenging, but I think it's true that as actors, especially young actors, it's important to keep the faith and not let the despair take over, because it's very easy to believe what everybody says. Why do we need another actor? And if you are a lifer, then that question should go off the table, and you're going to do it however you can for as long as you can.
Love it. Jayne, for you?
I think just being told by people that I trusted very much to always trust my own instincts about job choices and role choices, and I've been pretty successful at doing that. I know that whenever I do follow my own gut instinct, it's always right for one reason or another, and the occasions when I haven't, I know that I'm in a circumstance that just wasn't right for me. Yeah.
Well, I thank you. You two are at the top of your craft in this incredible play. Congratulations. Thanks for sitting with me today.
Thank you, Richard. So good to see you.
This episode of Backstage with Richard Ridge is presented by the Living Room at W New York Times Square, a playful nod to Times Square of the past and a perfect escape from the hustle and bustle of the city.